In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Please be seated. So we have arrived into our final meditation, our third meditation and concluding meditation. The shepherds now, having experienced Christ, experienced the baby Jesus, experienced the divine presence, of course, they are filled with joy. Of course, they were jubilant in life. What are they going to do with it? And so this third meditation is, the shepherds were the first evangelizers. The shepherds, proclaimers of the good news. The good news of a life enriched with God. So, they were the first evangelizers. From poverty, from nobody, to the greatness of God, and God made them, okay, now proclaim, there is God in our midst. God has entered history, and in that history, God has become part of our human stories. See, so it's beautiful. That is the context. This is the context of the third meditation. So, two things I want us to learn. First and foremost, the shepherds proclaimed the reality and the tangibility of divine presence. Their joy is tangible. It is felt, it is experienced from their lives. And so, the reality of God's presence, the reality entering or has entered into human history. I want us to capture this because in our time and context, many mentalities and attitudes that are actually atheistic are creeping into the church and into the mentality of believers and also into the experience of being church, because people can say, the mentality would say, well, yeah, it's a beautiful, the Bible, beautiful story. The Catholic Church, very good in proclaiming good lessons in life. Okay. The priest, Father Jopel, very good in just proclaiming good things. But it's up to us. It's up to you. It's up to me. God, it's a beautiful story. But it doesn't actually make an impact in life. Whereas the experience of the shepherd with the presence of Jesus, with the experience of the divine, is impactful. It truly captured them that they become part of the story of God, the theodrama, the story of God, the drama of God in human history. In our time and context, many times, we want our own story. And so, God wants to enter into your story. But we will say, well, okay, maybe I can learn this, maybe I can learn this, maybe I can learn this. And that is why we have the so-called, a very old saying, cafeteria Catholics or selective kind of Catholicism. Practically, it has been always there, and especially even in our time, all the more. That is the attitude of not really accepting that God is present and has entered really, factually, historically into our own stories. For example, I am a priest. I should have been an engineer. That was my childhood dream, an electronic communication engineer. But I am now a priest. It means that God's story has entered my life and has changed my life to His kind of story. For example, you, married couple, you have a married man, a married woman. I believe before you marry this woman, you have seen many other women, but then you married only this woman. Now that's God's will. God entered into your life so that you will only marry this one. Like manner for a woman, you have met other men. But you choose this man to marry you because that's also God entering into your life, because God has already entered into our lives, in the story of our lives. This we must capture and become our attitude, our mentality, so that we will never listen to any mentality that is not coherent with God's teachings, God's truths, and everything that matters to God may never be destroyed in our Christian life. Because you will always see, you will always think, my Christianity is real, not principle only, not ideal only. No, real is my life. That is why now we will try to put away everything that is not heavenward, everything that is not godly. That's why, remember at the very beginning in the introduction, I said, expel. One of the E in the word sheep. Expel what is ungodly. Expel what is not coherent. Because it will destroy your experience of God. God is always present in your life. And He is tangible, as tangible that I am a priest. That is on my part, about you. But many times we do not have that kind of mindset. Now let us learn that from the shepherds. For them, very important, the reality of God entering and has entered into human history, because it has entered into their stories. They are no longer just the ordinary shepherds. They are now the shepherds that has been transformed into the experience of divine presence. That's why they were jubilant. I want us to have that kind of mentality and attitude and behavior. The second thing, in conclusion, is this. The shepherds returned to their former way of life. They returned to being shepherds, of course. But even if they return to their former way of life, they do not return empty-handed. They return with a new way of thinking, a new way of living life, a new perspective of the world they live in, a new way of seeing that, yeah, they are shepherds, but they are privileged by God. You see, there's a new way of seeing our life. Although they returned to their former way of life, to being shepherds, yet they didn't return to their old habits, to their old mentality, to their old view of things. Though they returned to their former way of life, being shepherds, they didn't return empty-handed. Rather, they returned with new life, the newness that they have. Every liturgical season is not a returning to, okay, well, it was the same last year. Yeah, our Advent season, the same last year. No, it's not the same. And I will say, it depends on how you will look at it. If we look at it from the perspective of the experience of the shepherds, no. Because our heart must be new. Our mind must be new. Our attitude must be new. Because the experience of divine presence is impactful, life-changing, life-transforming, to become richer. Every time we have a new season, it is a richer experience. Every time we come to Mass, is a richer experience of God. We hope we have this kind of mindset so that we are always eager in our journey of spiritual life, enthusiastic in our Christian living, even if we will pass through difficulties, challenges, crosses. If our mentality is strong in the divine providence, in the divine protection, in the divine presence, everything will be fine. Because everything is about God, not about us. Amen. Of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.